Hello, everybody. My name is Fred Klein. I'm based in Berlin, and I'd like to introduce you today to the new metric anomaly detection capability that we will have in the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps version 3.3. And today I'm with Ian Manning, and I'd like him to introduce himself, please.
Hi, yes, I'm Ian Manning. I've been working in AI within IBM for the last 12 years. Today, like I said, we're going to talk about metric anomaly detection capabilities, or some of you might have known before, Predictive Insights, and talk about some of the differences and things like that. So thanks, Fred, for having me.
Thank you, Ian. Let's see what we've prepared. Just a few slides, as well as we are going to see a real system. What will be the new metric anomaly detection capability? We're going to talk through the architecture of the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps. We are going to have a look into what is the old Predictive Insight versus how does the new metric anomaly detection within Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps version 3.3 look like. We really have to do something about the naming, I guess. That is so long now. So we're going to look into data integration possibilities. How do we get data into the system? What kind of algorithms do we have in there? The user interface, a link to the documentation, and actually see the system in life. That's what we want to do, position it. We do have within the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps a number of capabilities, and what's quite unique in there is that we are going away from point solutions. For example, Netcool was addressing the event processing things. So everything to acquire events, correlate events, enrich events, and visualize them. And we have combined these capabilities with more capabilities that we do have within the portfolio of IBM Automation. So for example, we have integrated log integrations, so we can detect log anomalies. We can look into time series data, which is something that we're going to talk about today. So how to get time series data into our Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps, and what can we achieve with that? So that is where Ian is going to concentrate for the rest of today's video. And of course, we have more capabilities in here, for example, topology management. So we do have means to combine various inputs of topology, for example, out of network management, out of monitoring, out of a CMDB, add all that into combined capabilities that make it easier to see, one, do we have a problem? B, what is the problem? And C, actually do something about the problem. Reduce the time it takes to resolve these kind of issues. That is what we want to do. So make it easier. If there's something we can do out of the box, raise the level of automation. And this is exactly what we want to do with the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps. And we do have the central capabilities in here in the middle, as well as a lot of possible user interfaces in here. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Ian. Please take it away.
Okay, thanks, Fred. So just a recap, right, of the types of user customer value that we've been delivering through these types of capabilities over the years, right? And the number one thing that we started was to be able to detect problems before they become service impacting. Customers often have tools like Instana. They might have legacy IBM capabilities and performance management like ITM and ITCAM. They might have other open source software like Zabbix or Prometheus, and of course a whole other bunch of competitors' software to monitor the network or the database or any of these other specific components. And the idea was that we would take all this data, right? So being able to have that performance manager of managers capability where we could take all of it and analyze it together and give people insight about how those data are interacting. The classic example is where you have someone who's a network administrator and they get blamed for all the problems in the company. They end up starting pointing fingers, and they've got their tool which shows the network and everything is perfectly happy, and they're blaming the database person who has their own tool who is looking at it and saying everything's perfectly and happy. But yet the application owner knows that, look, there's a problem. I'm experiencing problems with my application and perhaps my third tool, right? And all of a sudden they know there's a problem. And if we can take all those bits of information and put them together so we have one pane of glass and one view to give to people, they might start to understand that the latency that's happening sporadically in the network is having a knock-on impact on the application. And being able to tie those pieces of information can help stop the internal squabbles that are happening in customers' organizations. And the third one then was mathematical relationship discovery. Again, it's just about bringing all those different points of view together. And as we mature into Watson AIOps, it's not just about taking the KPI data and relating it with other KPIs or metrics or time series, whatever you have. It's a case of being able to understand that there's a log anomaly that is influencing or affecting a metric anomaly, which is causing a slew of events or alerts that are coming into your system, and being able to tie all that information together, providing topological context, being able to rewind the topology and see what happened before that maybe has caused some of these problems. Maybe someone's made a configuration change. And the last one then that we often talk about is dynamic thresholding. Every single time we show a KPI, we always show a dynamic baseline that's created through AI. It's self-configuring, self-tuning, but we have a lot of other anomaly detection capabilities in there, but certainly it's something that people are very fond of. It's very prominent, and it's something that we can do with ease through our AI. So in terms of Predictive Insights legacy, right, we had a number of mediation packs. We have preserved the JSON format that we used for REST and Kafka for our legacy. So now that same format can be used to get data into AIOps. Historically, we would have had ability to have a mediation tool, and you could specify data in CSV or inside of a database, and we would go off and extract it and pull it and convert it. But that whole process of a mediation model is quite rigid. Now when we have JSON, which is self-describing, there's no need for that mediation model anymore. And it means that if customers want to change the metrics that are coming in or change the resources that are coming in, they can have full control of doing that without having to create another mediation model in order to update those metrics. So we have this nice fluid system where we have customers today who are just publishing data onto Kafka in our JSON format, and we're able to pick it up and start analyzing it with nothing in between. So to do that, we have a well-defined set of APIs. Here I'm showing on the left the ability to post data, and it's our format there is described. But we also have customers who are saying to us, great, now that we're sending you data, we would like to be able to get that data back and put it into our own tools and dashboards and whatnot. So we have the ability to send us the data, and then we will do aggregations, and we will do baselines, and we will do anomaly detection on it, forecasting, and then you can use our APIs to get that information back so that you can use it in another tool or a dashboard that you want. There's a lot of control there in terms of forecasting as well. So if you wanted to do a long-term forecast over days or weeks, you could do that as well. It's very rich and it's very powerful. The other option is that we have native first-class connectors. So Instana acquisition happened last year, I believe now. And the key thing is that we'll have right in Watson AIOps the ability to extract events, metrics, topology from Instana and start seeing anomaly detection and all the capabilities of AIOps on that data as well, above and beyond what Instana doing today, right? And Instana already do quite a bit, but again, it's basically to have that one view of all that data together. And this is provided through something that we call the AIOps bridge, but it's right there in the UI. You'll be able to see it and just say, connect to my Instana instance, start getting that data, and immediately it starts flowing through. So it's nice and easy and quick. We have a list of mediation packs, which were used in Predictive Insights historically. And again, because those packs supported a REST interface and will publish data in our JSON format, which is 5 years old or something at this stage, that JSON format has been preserved. And so we now will be able to ingest data from all of these sources as well. So it's a quickly be able to get those. And then again, remember, Instana is a native connector, so it doesn't need to get published through REST or JSON. It's kind of coming in through that ops bridge. So we'll have that and Instana and anything else that you might have in your environment, which you might say could be interesting, and you could just start publishing that to us, and we'll be able to analyze that data as well as all these other data that you see here. When we start to analyze data, right, I guess it's important to note that we have a number of different things that we're doing. The first one, I'm going to kind of go and read this slide a bit backwards, right? But I'm going to start with naive baseline. Naive baseline will kick in after a few data points. And it's the kind of thing where it gives customers the instant gratification, as we call it, to say, you know what, I've sent you data and immediately I'm getting some insight back. This term kind of came from one of our executives who was using some tax software. And basically, as soon as they put in the first number, they were getting feedback there to say whether they were getting a rebate or they would have to pay in. And of course, that number wasn't necessarily accurate, but it was a case of they just got that instant gratification knowing that this tool is doing something. And so that's the spirit of naive baseline. It's a case of after 4 data points, we may not understand exactly what the baseline would look like over the course of a day or a week, but we can start showing something, right? And then as that data continues to flow and we start to learn what a normal day looks like, what a weekend looks like, we can start to give more accurate baselines, and the other algorithms that we're using can start to get a feel for how the data typically behaves. And so we'll start to be able to, after a couple of days of data, which you could ingest within hours, start to give that richer insight into the data, right? And of course, the key thing here is that inference is near real time, right? As quickly as we can get the data, we can analyze it. So it's not a case of there's some sort of lag there. It's a case of as soon as we get the data, it's within seconds analyzed and presented, and you'll know whether your data is anomalous or not. So this is a bit of list of the algorithms that were historically within Predictive Insights. And of course, you can see that majority of them are, or all of them, except for one, is in AIOps 3.3. The other one is that we have a new algorithm coming, which is based off of BATS forecasting. This is an ongoing work that we have with IBM research. The nice thing is that we have a framework in place which allows us to quickly add new algorithms. So if a customer or someone in research has an idea for an algorithm, we could start to prove it out through our AI effectiveness squad and start to understand the use cases that it is good for, and then add it to the suite. And it's a key thing where we can start to make this richer, right? So if we're not catching a specific class of problem, we can build an analytic to specifically attack that and start analyzing and providing insight on those use cases. In terms of forecasting algorithms, right? So we have a number of them that we have historically. They're all there again in the future, and we've also added BATS forecasting, right? So again, it's about having lots of different capabilities under the hood. And the key thing is that we're never going to ask someone which algorithm to use. It's a case where there's a time and a place to use these algorithms. There's a way of looking at the data and figuring out the set of parameters that should be used. And we will do all that underneath the hood, and we'll do it automatically within split seconds, right? So that someone gets a feel for the course and speed of an anomaly when it starts to occur. But the main thing is, right, is that by going into AIOps 3.3 in the Cloud Pak with OpenShift, we're rewriting this. It wasn't simply a lift and shift from the legacy version, right? We're now multi-tenant. We will support multi-tenancy, I suppose, as soon as the UI does. We're horizontally scalable. We have customers asking us to support tens of millions of time series, and we're not there yet, but that's certainly what we have our eyes set on. And we're now supporting high availability, which is something that's been a frequent ask over the years. We can now support multiple aggregation intervals, so you could send us 1-minute data, 5-minute data, 10-minute data, 15-minute data, hourly data, and we'll analyze it all together. And you don't need to worry about topics and things like that like we had historically. We're native into OpenShift. We're using Kubernetes operators. The install is very simple. It's part of the overall AIOps install. It's a case where if you haven't actually seen it, if you have an OpenShift cluster, installing AIOps 3.3 is a good experience, right? And I would say that there's no longer a piecemeal type of install and then a configuration afterwards. It's a case of when you install, everything is there, it's all configured, and it's all set to go. It's fantastic.
We do have additional videos around that, how to install the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps using the operators. There are videos which show how to do that in less than an hour.
Brilliant. No, that's good, right? And I think the thing is anybody who's ever installed some of the legacy software and had to kind of go and work through installing prerequisites or trying to find that version of an RPM or some Perl discrepancy or whatnot, or Python discrepancy, can understand that the ability for everything to just do it and to do it and connect to each other and everything else is fantastic. And I don't think it's a value that we talk enough about. And the last one there is that we are now part of the ecosystem, right? So it's a whole suite of the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps. Now it's a case where your UX is tied to your topology and to your logs and to your runbooks. And there's not separate products there. There's not like completely different looking screens. We have a design team who's working to make this experience fantastic, right? And so I think that's the key thing is you're going to see new UIs, new look and feel. You can see where the money has been spent, right? It's a case of things are looking modern, and that's really important when we are talking to customers. So this is a quick visualization of what we have as an alert list. And then you can see on the right, we're providing the context to say, this is what this anomaly looks like. And you can see it's starting to come out of the baseline, and that's how we detect that as anomaly. And then what you're not seeing there is the forecast that would happen after it, right? To say, now that this thing has started to become a problem, this is the course and speed. This is how we expect it to behave in the next couple of hours. And so we can show you that now in the demo, right? But the other option here is we can click out to an expanded chart to get a much bigger screen, full screen, and being able to see the other metrics that are related to it in terms of topological, temporal, scope-based groupings that we've done with all the other events and alerts that are coming into the system to provide you context. This is why the response time is higher than normal, right? Is it because of some issues that we can track back to a log anomaly, tying that, giving it relevance, giving it context through topology? All of those things are starting to come together, and it'll be very quick and simple and easy. So in AIOps, we often talk about the concept of events and alerts and stories. And you can see as the higher we go up into this chain, the fewer we have of each, right? So it's a case where anomalies will come in as events, and then they will get promoted to alerts, and then they will get promoted into stories. And I guess the thing is that ideally a lot of these things are automated away, right? We don't want to have a point of view where we expect a human to be diagnosing things and fixing things all the time. The future is very much about automating these things as much as possible. When these alerts are coming in, if I can't resolve them immediately through a runbook, then I probably need to get someone involved and they will have context about what's going on. I can also choose, for example, to have these alerts not notify anybody, right? It's a case where maybe I haven't established that this is worthy of waking someone up at 3 a.m. yet. But if I do know that, hey, this is a critical piece of my infrastructure, I can create policies or rules that will say, promote these things to be stories. These are things that are urgent. These are things that you're going to care about when I wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to complain. You'll be able to have all that context available to you within that story, right? These are the related events. These are the alert groups. These are the topology. These are the changes that have happened. These are the log anomalies that have happened. So you'll get lots of context there. If, for example, you don't have a story and you are getting phoned at 3 o'clock in the morning because people are trying to complain, you have all of the alerts available to you at your disposal. And you'll be able to look at them and understand the groupings, get all that same information to help you resolve that problem as quickly as possible. You might decide at that point then that, hey, the next time this happens, absolutely do promote this to a story, notify me, try executing these runbooks. Let's try and act upon this as quickly as possible because now you understand that it's an issue. But it's about incrementally giving customers that path to being proactive, because with anything that we talk about, it's always people, process, and product. And we don't want to necessarily try and throw people to being proactive overnight. It's a case of let people gradually get there themselves as they see the benefits of doing so, as they start to appreciate what the analytics is able to do for them. Then they will gradually move, and it won't be trying to change your whole entire customer processes overnight. These are our documentation links. We will be native within the 3.3 documentation, right? Because we're all one product now. So it's a case of when we're trying to talk about one thing, it's all now one documentation set. And it's not a case of choose your own adventure type of book where it's now go see the Predictive Insights documentation or now go see the Netcool documentation. It's going to be all in one place. It's all one product. So it's good, right? It makes it very cohesive and very easy to follow. Make sure you indicate that link.
That's a huge step forward because it was so fragmented before.
No, absolutely right. I mean, I remember even in Predictive Insights, we would have had a DB2 dependency. And it
Yeah.
was a case of now go install DB2, and it would bring you off to the DB2 documentation. And then the DB2 documentation would be talking about things, and people would be maybe finding some difficulty with that. Now it's all in one place, right? And we're not having you link out and go to other places and search for other things, which is
Well, not totally in one place. The right hat piece is missing in here. So you still need to divert into an OpenShift installation if you
right.
don't have an OpenShift installation at hand.
Yeah, okay. So I'll give you that, right? But if OpenShift is there, then everything is ready. And I know, of course, right? Some people aren't necessarily familiar with OpenShift, and that can still be a challenge for some people. But if you have a cloud instance of it, which we can create in IBM Cloud or whatnot, or Google Cloud or wherever, and you're using that as your starting point, everything else then should be simple, straightforward, and all in one place.
And that's something I heavily use in POCs. So for example, we just take an IBM account in ROX or Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes servers, and then install the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps operator into it. And that's so easy cheesy. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's something that we don't probably talk enough about. People will have perceptions of where we have been in the last 10 years, but we really have come a long way. And this is really helping us speed up the time to value and to be able to, have nice POCs that don't drag on for very long, right? It's a case of get in there, we can demonstrate the value, we can show everything, and then conclude very quickly.
Speaking of demo, now it's time.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. This is the Cloud Pak, as we would have seen, right? For those that maybe haven't seen this, I'm sure, Fred, you probably have a video that kind of goes and shows things, but I want to just probably tap into a couple things. We did talk about the Instana connector. It will be under Data and Tools Connections. And when I open up that, I can click on Add a Connection. And I can say metrics, and you can see that I have my Instana connector here, right? And I'm able to actually get events, metrics, and topology from it. Right now, I have data flowing in from our JSON API that I've talked about. I can see some of the stories and alerts that have been created as a result of it. So here you can see I have one story where my average user time is higher than expected. And I can also go into my alerts, right? And I can see that, yes, I actually have a number of alerts. One of them has obviously been prioritized into a story, but the other ones are available here. And if I click on one of them, what you can see is that I've got this nice side panel, which gives me a quick view of what the anomaly looks like. And that's fine, but it's a bit small. So I can click on View Expanded Chart, and it gives me something that's a lot bigger and nicer, right? I'm going to zoom in here a bit. And what you can see is that it seems like I would say that this is probably a weekend behavior. Weekends are slightly different to other weekday behavior. And you can see that we've got some new activity that's happening on the weekends. So it's creating our baselines to go large. And then you can see it this current weekend, the last weekend that we processed the data, there was more anomalies, but we have this purple zone, which is the confidence intervals or the expected range of the data as it trends into the future. And you can see that we've understood that, look, these things tend to go up on the weekends, but we expect it to fully go back down. And if you look at historically what that looked like, you can see that, yes, that's exactly what that would have happened, right? It's a case of it spiked up a little bit, but it came back down. And now we're forecasting and saying the same thing is likely to happen again. So it's a case where someone saw this, they might decide to say, look, let's not act upon this one immediately. It looks like it's probably just a new behavior that the AI will learn for next weekend and we'll be okay. That's about it, Fred, I think, in terms of capability from the UI and things like that I would like to show today.
I really like the new concept of integrating all the various user interfaces as well as the capabilities. So it's really a big step forward.
Yeah, I agree, right? And again, it's a case where, we had a lot of these capabilities within multiple products, and now we're basically bringing them all into one. Not a case of having an event grouping capability in Predictive Insights and an event grouping capability in AIOps. It's about having the two products together and having one event grouping capability that can serve everything.
Thank you, Ian, for all the time you spent into preparing the demo as well as working on the slides. It was really insightful, and I appreciate all the efforts you put into. And thank you to the audience who are watching and spending their time on this video. And with that, I'd like to conclude today's video. Watch the space. We are going to show more of the Cloud Pak for Watson AIOps 3.3 release videos. So there are a couple of roundup videos in preparation at the moment. We're also preparing something around natural language processing. Looking forward to see you all again in another video, and have a good time. Bye.
Thank you.